Hey guys, my name is Caesar with Inspire Movement. Welcome to another segment of Word of the Day. If this is the first time that you're joining us, welcome. If you've tuned in with us before, thank you so much for your patronage and coming back. Today we're going to be looking at the word greed. So greed by definition is an intense and selfish desire for something. It's when you covet things like wealth and power and maybe even something as trivial as food. So when we look at greed, if you're dealing with greed, how do you really self-assess to know that you are? Some of the symptoms that behaviorally you're looking at are things like being self-centered. Emphasis is always on you, right? So me, and that never gets old. You're probably dealing with something like greed. Also, you can succumb to envy. Now, there's a difference between greed and envy. When you're looking at greed, obviously you're coveting something, but you're not coveting that something of someone else. With envy, you in fact are coveting something from somebody else. So you actually want to have exactly what that other person has. That's when you're dealing with envy. You also have no limits. And so in order to get what it is that you want, you have essentially, there's no holds barred. Whatever bridges you need to cross, and whoever you need to take along the way, you're going to take along with you. So you also lack empathy. You have no compassion towards others. Again, you're very mission-minded, and as long as you get what it is that you want, what it is that you're coveting in that moment, it doesn't really matter to you. You're also very much in the short term. So you focus on those short-term gains, again, on that emphasis that you have in your life right now, or what it is that you want to covet, and whatever consequences those actions that you may have, you don't really care or pay that much mind to. So those are some of the symptoms that you may have behaviorally when you're looking at something like greed. But how can we overcome it or try to overcome it? What are some of the things that we can do? So internally, coming to terms with the idea that it really focuses on insecurities, right? So if you're dealing with greed, you probably have some underlying low self-esteem or issue with confidence that's sort of, eating at you and you haven't really come to terms with. So that assessment in and of itself is pretty important. Also, in order to overcome it, right? So if you think that symptoms that we mentioned before are some of the symptoms that you're dealing with in your life, then just being grateful. Like we talked about that since the very first video, just being thankful for even the smallest little thing in your life, your health, your family can certainly help you to overcome this issue of greed. Also, countering it by the opposite. And what is the opposite of greed? It's actually giving back, right? So, and even if that means something as small as pulling change out of your pocket to donate to organization or to the Red Cross or whomever the case may be, the Salvation Army, even things like that can be very helpful towards overcoming greed. Also knowing that it is a vice. So it's not something that you should underestimate. It's like, like an ailment that starts out really small, but if you don't pay attention to it, it gets bigger and bigger until it almost overcomes your life. So that's something also to factor in. So those are some basic sort of things that you can do. Also, like if the issue is material belongings, let's say, and not power necessarily, also knowing that there's an origin to those material possessions, but there's also a finality. So you have to try to assess what is it that you want to leave as a legacy. When you pass on, when you transcend to whatever it is that you believe you transcend to when you pass away, what's the legacy that you want to leave behind? The big mansion that you had? Maybe the material things that you have in your closet? Or is it something bigger than that? So that's also something else to kind of factor in as you're trying to overcome greed. As me personally reflecting on this word, what does that draw upon? Well, just like every family, my family has certainly suffered because of greed. We have had issues as a family where that's eaten at our very own soul, I feel, in many respects, and caused tremendous amounts of pain. And some of the wisdom gathered is like if you're really coveting something, like asking yourself some basic questions. How far are you willing to take it in terms of coveting those goals or those aspirations that you have? Are you willing to lose your family over it? Are you willing to lose your friends over it? Are you willing to lose your health over it? Are you willing to lose yourself, over it? Are you willing to lose your life over it? If you answer yes to any of those questions, then it's definitely gone too far. Because it's not that we shouldn't have aspirations or goals in life or try to have a little bit something more than, say, the last generation did to offer to our own family. There's nothing wrong with that. A little healthy ambition is definitely good. But greed is, again, a little bit more than just a healthy amount of ambition. It's really almost like a sickness, if you will. You can never have your tummy fully full because you always covet more and more and more and more. So those are the things that you need to sort of factor in so that you don't fall into that. And yes, going back to the things that we can do to overcome, being grateful for what you have on a daily basis is so very important. I know it's redundant to a point in the sense that I keep on repeating it, but it's so very important. So I hope you find some of these reflections useful. Again, it's always a great pleasure to do these reflections and just share some of the thoughts that it come to mind when it comes to these wellness topics. Again, tune into our website if you haven't fully tuned in at all. And also to our social media platform. It's always a great joy to be with you. Have a great, blessed week. Bye-bye.